expert on parts and where to find them. All new teams need to really pay attention to this. This is significant.
Man, I'm so excited that we're doing this in person. I can't tell you, because I was telling Doc the last time I was with William, and I said, I can't find where to get my presentation up on the screen. We can build a solar car, but some technology escapes us, and that day I was just having a mind. Hopefully this is going to work. When we first started doing solar car, and we came to the new teams meeting when it was at Winston that first year in 2010, and we started looking at building, one of the pieces of information that was so hard to find is, where do you find parts? There's not a website that says solar car parts store, and there's no kit, so it's up to your mind on like what you put together, how it's going to work, which is one of the most fantastic things about this program is you're going to put stuff together, and then we may have been doing it since 2012, and we're going to come to a new team and go, wow, we've never thought of that. That's what's really cool about this program. So in this, I hope that I'm going to give you a jumping off point to where you can find parts. You're probably going to find stuff that we haven't found. This is not a definitive list. This is a jumping off point for you so that you have a place to go find stuff and start brainstorming. You know, what are things going to cost? Can you get it? And how are you going to put it together? Okay, so depending on the order and how you're going to figure out what parts you need, everybody's going to need solar cells. These are a few websites. If you're building your car for the first time, which this is a new teams meeting, so you are, more than likely you're going to use a pre-made solar panel. I highly recommend doing that if it's your first car. If you are brazen and you got the support to do it, you can build your own. Maxion is the supplier. For a little bit there, it was all through SunPower, but Maxion has become a child company of the parent company, SunPower, and so you can get a hold of them directly. It's a little bit of a challenge to pay for the sales because they don't do business to consumer, they do business to business. So we're experiencing that right now by trying to pay internationally. So we're trying to do it as early as possible. Some good places to go are Unbound Solar. It used to be Wholesale Solar. You can buy your cells from them. We've had experience with them trying to help us out with shipping to get it. We tell them what we're doing, and then put a little Wholesale Solar logo on the car. If you want to have a somewhat custom panel to try to fit it into for what you need for your vehicle, SPM Solar out of I think they're in North Carolina, somewhere around there. They will make panels for you. It's going to cost a little bit more, but they'll make it. Green Tech is another place, and there's more than just this out there to find your solar panels. Once you have your panels, you're going to need a way to get the power from your panel to your battery or your motor. You're going to need a multi-point power tracker. These are a few that are used. The Midnight, the Outback, the one in the middle, that's a Race Max. That's out of Australia, and then like one of the newest ones that's on the market, it's the second from the right. That's an Elmar. That's a pretty good controller. It's very compact, super light. And then I didn't have a picture of the one on the far right, so forgive having the secret in the picture. They use it for scale. This is out of Japan, and that's from Nomura. And those are pretty interesting. If you want to know more about those, if you'll go to Facebook and go and like Nomura. They're a supplier for one of the best motors being used right now. They also supply wheels and different things. It's a little pricey, but they can also provide you information on how those work. We haven't jumped off to even play with those yet because of they're a little bit strange and different from what these others do. The Midnight and the Outback, they're primarily made for people's homes, but they'll work great in the car. Midnight has been a fantastic MPPT as far as like customer service. They're in Washington, so there's a time difference, but the experience that we've all, I think Tony uses them, I think Shannon's used them, a number of us use them, but the customer service has been fantastic, and they're US based. Outback's been good, a lot of things we've used those. Depending on what voltage you run would depend on what you need. If you're gonna run higher voltage, like above 48, or really above 72, then you'd want to go to the Aerial Race Mac or the Elmar or something similar to that. The Outback and the Midnight, they'll do up to 72 volts, so depending on what your system runs. Most teams run 48. This presentation should be available on the website. There's some stuff that I updated in this that I didn't get updated in the handout that you got today that's also on the website, and I'll kind of cover that here in just a second. Batteries, a little bit different this year. They're allowing lithium iron phosphate into the classic and advanced classic and electric solar. That's a really big deal. In our advanced classic car that we still have that's put away in storage, we had our batteries in there, and those batteries weigh 204 pounds. I was looking it up when I was getting ready for this presentation, and the same battery setup from one of the companies, it was going to weigh like 65 pounds. That's huge. That's huge. So battery guys I always like them if you're going to do lead acid, because whatever the price is, it includes free shipping. And here's what's interesting, is battery guys, I've compared them against other companies that sell the lead acid batteries. They're the same price with free shipping as the other companies that'll charge you like $200 shipping because of the weight. So that's a place to save money. And they're quick, they're very personal when you call them on the phone. If they're out of a battery that you're looking for, call them. They'll help you find a supplier. And a lot of companies don't do that anymore. Sun Extender, that's a very good lead acid battery for solar car racing. They're built for just being abused, to be honest with you. You can abuse those batteries. Now, if you want to do lithium battery systems, batteryspace.com, they provide turnkey iron phosphate systems. You may see them as a prismatic battery cell. They also have the battery management system that you're going to need for those cells. Okay, do your research on the lithium iron phosphate before you really jump in on it to make sure that you can monitor them the way you need to. Because if you use a regular drill, all power tools that are cordless have lithium batteries in them. You've all used them to where you're using them and they just cut off, right? And then you charge them back up. One of the issues we ran into with our auxiliary lithium battery this year is we were using it in the car. The students put it on charge, and the next morning it wasn't charged. It wasn't even registering any voltage. When you buy those individual lithium iron phosphate batteries, that way they have a built-in protection board in them. Once it drops below voltage, it won't allow it to charge. And so that could be something you need to look at. You're going to buy those batteries that have a built-in system on them, or are you going to buy one where it has an external system that you can monitor and will give you the information for each battery? That's what I would recommend. So Battery Space is a good place, and then I found LDS Reliance, and so it's going to be store.ldsreliance.com. This is a husband and wife that basically it's a do-it-yourself solar, like you're going to put it on your home. And so they have a store where they list everything, and they've got a bunch of different lithium iron phosphate batteries. DCbattery.com is a good place for lead acid, and then Unbound Solar, wholesale, which used to be wholesale solar. So they've got Unbound Solar is going to have your MPPTs, panels. You can buy batteries from them to kind of be like a one-stop shop. Motors, man, this is a whole other area. Take your time and research your motors. Like I was talking to one person when they were out looking at cones, and they asked us about motors, and I said, well, just research, because motors will do different things. They might be the same voltage, but they're going to do different things. When you're looking to buy a motor, look at the data sheets for it. So it's going to tell you like what its top RPM, what the torque is. If you're building a first car and it's going to be a really heavy car, like 1,300 pounds, you might need a motor that has more torque. You're going to need to like do that research. Cloud Electric provides motors and motors controllers. The ones that probably all of us have hit in the past are electric motorsports, EV drives, Thunderstruck motors. And then if it's Suba motor, you can go look at that, but if you're going to buy a Suba motor, which is a hub motor, if you're going to go into the advanced or the cruiser class, Numerico on Facebook is who you have to go through. You can't go through Mitsubishi, even though they make it. Numerico is a person to contact. And Key is a great person to go with. He'll email you back. You can chat through Facebook. That guy is 200% solar car, okay? Some of the different motors, you've got brushless, you've got permanent magnet. motors, and then you've got hub motors, as an example of a Mitsubishi right there. Just to kind of give you an idea of cost, a brushless motor like what's up in the upper left-hand corner, and the one on the side, which is in black there, ME0909. The 0909 is around $400. You can go all the way up to, $1,000 for a brushless motor, maybe $800 to $1,000 with the controller. The Mitsubishi, man, is Shannon here, or are they still out there? We know that the Mitsubishi motor, when you get the wheels and everything after the transmission, it can cost you like close to $20,000 to $25,000. So, I mean, it's expensive. There is so much to research there. You guys are going to want to do that. I know that this is not how you're supposed to put a presentation together where it just looks like a jumbled mess, but it also allows you to look at this if you're a visual person like me and you're like, oh, I see it, and then I see where the website is. You can do that. One of the which one is it? Oh, here we go. Okay. So this is one of the things that you need to make sure you buy the correct, read the rules, and make sure you get the right lights. Because I know there's been years where there's been a lot of force trading going on in the street area. Like, you have the extra light. Somebody will buy a light, it looks like the correct light that's in the rules, but it's not. You really need to buy the one that the race said. There's two different models. Make sure you get those. There is a company right here in Denton called Earl Owens. You can go on there and buy them. Ranger's another place you can order them from. I would say this. Buy the correct one, go ahead and put it in your budget if you got to have it. Don't try to save money with the expensive. When you're on the road, you want to be visible. You've got somebody's child in that vehicle. It might be yours. This year my son is on the team and my niece is on the team. Coaches, I want to say this, make sure you are in charge of is that car safe. Make sure that the parts you're buying, the stuff that you're getting, is there to ensure the maximum safety of that person in the car. The race sets up the way that we run this on the road so that we can provide the maximum safety. Safety above all is what you want. I would rather be safe than win. So the correct lights, make sure the ones on top of your car are highly visible. If you're using these lights, you can literally see them from miles away. If somebody's on a hill, I know going through Kansas, you can see them miles away, like, wow, you can see those lights flashing. So make sure you get those. Some of the other switches you're going to need to get are relays. These are high voltage relays. These will work all the way from, your 48, 36 volt up to like, some of them are 150 volts. So these are the relays that you got to use for disconnecting and connecting your array and motor. And then these are some great websites to get that. And then blinkers, I'm going to recommend one. There's under brake lights and turn signals, Chrome Glow. They're super bright. They're thin. They're designed for motorcycles. And if you know anything, if you have a motorcycle, you want to be as visible as possible. So we found these, and they are a little bit pricey. But when you put on that little 6-inch amber strip on the front, when it blinks, you can see it. If you put the big, 24-inch brake on the back and then a couple of others and some ambers, when they flash, you can see them. For us, I wanted our car to be highly visible so somebody knows the blinker's on or it's got brake lights. Let's see here. Fuses, you can get those. Mauser Electronics, DigiKey, Granger, McMaster-Carr. Does anybody here not know about McMaster-Carr? If you've done anything, great website for one-stop bearings, fuses, electrical connectors, all kinds of stuff, and they're very reasonable. Wiring, make sure that you're getting the correct wiring for your car. One of the things that you don't want to do is you don't want to buy a 2-gauge cable that's made for a stereo system and use it for your motor. Okay, because there was a team back that had an issue where their car would go out and run and then it would die. And they had it throughout the entire race. They couldn't figure out what it was. That wire had shorted out inside of the insulation. And it was, we talked to them later and they said, oh, it was because we put wire they use for a radio system. Either buy your wire from one of the places that sells the motor, or if you use a good rated welding cable that's rated for the amps and the voltage that you're going to use, that's what you want to go with. All right. Okay, and then once you get your basic stuff, there's certain things you've got to have. You're going to need a way. You're going to need a way to know how fast you're going. I believe that this year the minimum speed is 20 miles an hour. If you don't have a speedometer or a way to see that, then you're not going to know how fast you're going. So you can get a GPS speedometer. There's a place called Speed Hut. We bought our last few just right off of eBay or Amazon. They're there. You can get them in different sizes. You're also going to need some kind of way to distribute your auxiliary system for all those different power components, your lights, your horns, radios, speedometer. This little fuse box is great because you can't use your frame as your chassis ground in solar car. Everything has to have its own independent ground. Nothing can be grounded to the frame. And so this system allows you for each fuse section to have an independent positive and negative, and that'll run out so your different components that you need. The other thing it's great for is if you have an issue with a grounded frame in the car, those are each individually. So you can go through and start pulling fuses and you can narrow it down real fast. The last thing you want to do is have a grounded frame issue at solar car, and then you're taking Mr. Fitz to the hospital because he thinks he's having a heart attack or a panic attack. Low voltage alarm, everybody's going to have one of those for their auxiliary. 12 volt technology. This is a one-piece system. You put it in, it gives you your main on-off switch for it, and it also tells you what your voltage is. It'll give you an audible alarm, and also, you can't see it, but there's like 9 holes there that'll light up red and flash at you. So it tells you if your battery's getting low, and it'll kick in at around 11.75 volts. And then you can get other meters to measure voltage and amperage, and these are some good places. Sprockets, seats, belts, brakes, and steering. Man, guys, make sure you get good quality brakes. Custom sprockets. Once you start looking into what you want your car to do, you may want to look at custom sprockets. There's a great, if you type in go-kart speed calculator online, you can calculate how fast your car theoretically could go, or kind of figure out how much torque you're putting on the motor versus what your gear ratio is. Rocket sprockets, Rebel gears, Super sprockets. I went and checked these, and they seem to all be active. I know that in the past, some other people had tried using them, just coming out of COVID, and they weren't really doing anything. Tony, was that you? Okay. Seat belts. I will tell you this, you can get those through Summit, Jedge, no problem. One of the benefits of having the Solar Car Challenge base right here in the Metroplex is there is a Summit Superstore in Arlington. And the thing with your seat belts, you need to make sure if somebody donates them to you, check the expiration date. If it's expired and you show up to the race, they won't let you use them. So you'll need to make sure you have seat belts that are within the spec of not being expired. If you have a good set, I heard you can send them in and they'll recertify them, put a new sticker on, and then you can put them back in your car. So Summit Racing, motivational tubing for seat belts, Jegs, brakes, Martin Custom Products, those are MCP brakes, those are pretty good. Motivational tubing, .com, they have a lot of stuff in there for junior dragsters. Let's see here, the Chassis Shop, and then AliExpress or eBay. Steering components, also motivational tubing, chassis stock, Go Power Sports, and AliExpress. Some places you can buy like an entire steering wheel, rack and pinion setup for your car. That's really convenient. A lot of times it's from AliExpress. If you're going to do that, do it early, because like somebody else said, they didn't get their parts for 10 months later. Suspension. A lot of teams will use ATV suspension arms. You can go on eBay and buy new or used if they're in good shape. The Chassis Shop has stuff. As far as shocks, Ride Fox, or you can have similar shocks like Ride Fox, or you can have actual car shocks, the coil-over car shocks. Metal for construction, we try to find a local company around us to do it, but I always use Online Metals or Metal Depot to get kind of a generalization on what the cost is for that. So that's a good place. And they have documentation so you can look at the strength and the yields on that metal, so you have an idea, is this strong enough for what we're using? Wix Aircraft's another good place. Nuts and bolts and small parts. MasterCard, like I mentioned before, Bolt Depot is the cheapest place we found to get grade A bolts. You can go in there and select exactly what you want to get. They bag them up and send them to you. We had a local supplier in Greenville where we're from say, I can get those cheaper. He came back and says, we can't get them cheaper. So we ended up buying a whole entire bin. And when we build a car, we no longer prototype with nothing but grade A bolts. And I'll tell you why. If you prototype with something less than a grade A bolt and you get the scrutineering and you told the students, hey, you need to replace those with grade A. Hey, you need to replace those with grade A. And they come back from mechanical, you're like, well, what happened? Well, we got to replace these bolts. Well, I told you that. But if you go ahead and prototype with them and build stuff with the grade A, you've already got the correct bolt that's going to be used, and students get used to that. Wheels. Summit Racing, you can get wheels, and you can get, I'm going to talk about Treatland here in a minute, but shop adapterkings.com, they make adapters to go from ATV to automobile. So if you're using a ATV arm suspension system that already has your hubs on it and it's got disc brakes built in, but you're wanting to go to a different wheel because you don't want to run a big fat, ATV wheel. One of our first cars, and we did modifications, we went and got welded wheels, and I found Adapter Kings that will make any adapter to any wheel. So you can go from ATV to automotive to ATV, and they're for what they do, they're very cost effective and inexpensive. Treatland TV. I was talking to Tony earlier. This is a strange website, but they supply wheels for mopeds and light duty motorcycles. They've got a lot of interesting hubs and wheel combinations in there, but it's an interesting website. Like when you're looking at what it costs, they like to play around and say, oh, that's 4 tacos. And they got this big mouth and you feed it to tacos. I'm going to tell Tony's story he told me earlier. He says, I think they like to play around with sending stuff. He said they ordered a wheel and a hub, and when they got it to school, the box was there, but it was wrapped in tape that said Victoria's Secret. So the guys are a little, they're literally, I think what they are is, I think their life is surfing, and they run this shop to support the surfing. Really nice. There's a lot of good stuff on that website. Don't be afraid to go there. We're running wheels on our car from there right now. Composite Materials, shrink wrap, and foam. Some of y'all may have looked at some of the pictures. Some of the teams are using this shrink wrap, and what it is, it's shipping wrap that you see on an 18-wheeler hauling something they don't want to get wet. It's also a good material if you want to form some kind of aerodynamic shape around your car. That works. It's pretty. I haven't bought a roll in a while. I think it's like, it's still $250, Tony, a roll, and you can do you can wrap your car maybe 4 times with that much. They've got a shrink wrap heat gun that costs a lot of money, and it shrinks the stuff really fast. We found that just a heat gun from Home Depot or Lowe's does the job and gives you more control. If you're going to do some composite stuff, these are some great companies to use. Express Composite, Rockwest, Fiberglass, Composite Envisions, and then Dragon Plate. Dragon Plate will sell pre-made carbon fiber tubing, sandwich board. They sell foam. From the other places, you can buy either like Kevlar, fiberglass, or carbon fiber. And then for the shrink wrap, you can get it from Americover Big Shrink. I will say this: if you are going to do any kind of like aerodynamic shapes and use that, make sure you buy the name brand tape that goes with it. The tape that you use to secure the shrink wrap does not shrink with the shrink wrap. You got to keep that in mind. But if you buy just like, we bought a whole box of stuff on eBay thinking we're getting a good deal, and we got it, it was pink. It was like this light pink color. So this is some good stuff if you're getting to the point where you want to try to make your car look aerodynamic. And then if you're going to build a mold or create some kind of part, Foam Mart's a place to get foam where you can stack it and shape it into what you want. This is something that we discovered, and if you cannot find a part and you have access to CAD, you're already going to use this to like design the part. You can design a part, and this company called Exometry allows your students to build the part. This is actually one of our spindles for our wheels. The students designed it. You go to Exometry, it's free to set up, and you can upload that file. In a matter of 2 minutes, maybe 3, we'll send you back a quote on what it would cost. And so like for this spindle, we had it made out of chromoly 4130, and if you want to get it expedited, it was going to be $1,200 for 4. But if you wanted to wait and do the economy, and just, the difference is 12 days versus 10 days. It was $411. That's material, them shaping it out on what your specifications are. All right, your students built it, they designed it. They gave this company strict specifications on how it should be built. Now, right now, you can also put in what you want your threads to be on either end, and then they'll do that. If they have any questions, they'll contact you. We had our custom suspension made this way. When you get it back, it's high quality. It is high quality, it's worth. If this is something you need to do to make a custom part, this is a fantastic website, and it's really cool when your students design something, and if you've done 3D printing and they print it out, when you get something like this back and it looks professional and it's on the car, and you know it's solid and it works, it's really neat. It'll help you fill that gap when you can't find what you want to do. Make it. 3D printing and rapid prototyping it's just going to get better and cheaper going forward. Solid Edge is still a sponsor of the Solar Car, Doc?
Yes.
Okay, so Solid Edge, it's free to the Solar Car team. Great program. SolidWorks, it's free sponsorship. The only reason I list that is some schools are SolidWorks schools, and students work for certification for that. If not, I will tell you the one thing that I really want to promote, and because it works with Solid Edge or SolidWorks, is Onshape. Onshape is free for educational purposes, and it's online based. I know that a lot of these are getting ready to go online. I don't know if Solid Edge is online yet. Do y'all know? It is. Okay, so cool. So I would recommend using Solid Edge. You can have an online account. That way your students can work on a Chromebook. It doesn't have to be a big fancy, high RAM, expensive $2,400, $500 computer. They can use that. And then you can upload it. It's free to upload and get a quote. It doesn't cost you anything. We got crazy and we said, what would it cost to have our wheels made out of titanium? We ain't got $50,000. It was interesting. So one-stop shopping, Amazon, eBay, Walmart, those are all real good. Ordering from China, I mean, we all know it's a little bit of a risk. Sometimes you hit a home run, sometimes you don't. On our EV car that we built, we ordered the entire front end. It was A-arms, hubs, and steering, and it was kind of a hit. We had an upper A-arm missing, and it took months. We couldn't get a hold of anybody, and if we did get a hold of anybody, we couldn't understand each other. And then the hubs were not true; they wobbled. So we had them on the car, and the car was going, the wheels just doing this. And so we had to do a lot of building ourselves. So you can get incomplete parts, communication barrier, no warranty. Some stuff, depending on what you want to do, it might be cheap enough where you want to take a risk. But just keep that in mind. You're taking a risk, especially with these sites. Some stuff's getting better. Discounts. We got a motto: if you don't ask, or make them tell you no. So if you ask and they say no, say, oh great, I just wanted to ask. Do it politely, be kind, and you'll be surprised at how many companies we won. Like, oh, we can do free shipping. Sometimes they can't, but a lot of times that they will. Or they might partially sponsor you. I know that one year we were trying to get our new radios from Rugged Radio, and they partially sponsored us, and then like a year later I realized I could have bought it all on eBay for like a sub-brand for like a quarter of what we paid, even with that. Approved vendors. If you are a public or charter school, I know here in Texas, we have an approved vendor list. If you're private, you probably have more leeway to get able to buy stuff. If you have trouble getting things, like if you're going to order something from Australia, we try to get Ariel to become an approved vendor. They want to get paid. They got to get paid because they don't make it until you pay for it, and the school districts don't work that way. Build a relationship with a local locally owned business that would be willing to be your intermediary. We had a locally owned business, and we built a relationship with them our first year. He says, look, I'll buy anything you want and add it to my inventory at zero markup. That's huge. I mean, we've done the math. I think the last time I checked, he saved us like $50,000 just because there was no markup on there. And he's floated. It's a true sponsorship because he's stepping in there and floating like between $5,000 to $10,000. And once it comes in, and then we get it, then he gets paid. So that's build those relationships with locally owned businesses, and it might start out to where maybe it's an in-kind donation. And then once you build that relationship and you kind of go back each year, then all of a sudden they're like, man, we want to do more for you because you've built that relationship. Are there any questions? Yes?
I do have one. Sorry, John, so you mentioned the ATV suspension kits from like online where it's got the A-arms and the hubs that come all together and stuff. I was just curious in your experience, especially since with us looking at like a cruiser car where the students alone is 650 pounds. What do you think of those ATV kind of kits for a lot of weights?
So I'm going to preface it with this.
Sure.
I'm not the advisor for your team, so
Yeah.
So I always say this: do the research. I'll tell you experience. Our first car weighed like 1,350 pounds, and we had ATV suspension on it from a Honda 450 or something, and that suspension held up. Looked at it. I feel like if you buy something from a name brand company like Honda, Kawasaki, or something like that, if that's the direction you're going to go, research and find out what do they make the material out of, how much is it, what's their dynamic load rating on it versus just static load rating. I feel like it would hold up if you built the car right, but do your research. And me saying this, no way condones that it's good to go. That's totally going to be on me. Yes.
So a quick question on relays. As you mentioned, I think on the sheet there was an actual game part, but just to make sure, like when relays are advertised, they often advertise the trigger voltage and then their max rated amperage 3.8 volts.
Yeah.
So is there anything that we should be specifically looking out for in regards to like duty cycles, like stuff like that? Like,
Yeah, I would do your research on that. So he's asking, he asked like, what should you be looking for as far as trigger voltage? Trigger voltage on those relays, so your relay is going to be run by your auxiliary battery. So it's either going to be 12 or 24 volts, and you'll have it on a switch. So when you flip that switch, that 12 or 24, it's normally 12. Even if they say 24, when you go to the data sheet, we found this to be true, they also work on 12. When you flip your switch, it sends that 12 volts to that relay. Now it closes so that you can send all the voltage from either your voltage and amperage from your panels to your motor batteries, or from the batteries to your motor. Okay, so you want to look at that. Are they rated for 48 volts max and only like 200 amps? Or are they rated for 96 volts up to 1,000 amps? What we found is they're rated pretty high, but you want to read the data sheet and make sure that you fit within that. I've never been through scrutineering, but my students say those are the kind of questions they're going to ask. So you want to make sure that you know, and have that make a scrutineering booklet that you have that has all this stuff based on the sample scrutineering they have on the website. Print that out, and when you think you're going to ask a question, put information in there that helps you answer that question. But do your research on those to make sure it fits what you're doing on your car.